heat lysate, 150 degrees, 162 degrees, 15, 20 seconds, or 282 degrees for 2 or 3 seconds. Pasteurization. It breaks open the lysosomal membranes of the cell, breaks the cell body open. The internal cell contents are proteins. And all those cell guts get splattered all over the place. So what you get is milk with a whole bunch of dead parts in it. Okay? And that's what pasteurized milk is. It's not clean milk, it's dead milk. It's milk with all these floaties all through it. Well, that little tiny microscopic bacteria that were broken into little pieces and have their cell contents spill all over the place, those proteins actually trigger an immune response in your body, the histamine response. Histamines can cause watery eyes, itchy throat, asthma attack, all kinds of stuff, even anaphylactic shock in severe cases. So that's what you see when you see phlegm production, clearing of throat, and all that kind of stuff, is your body responding to all these little things that aren't supposed to be there. They get into places they aren't supposed to be. Raw milk does the exact opposite. It doesn't do that because all the bacteria is alive. It's like yogurt bacteria. It's not, they're intact. Your body understands it. It can recognize it. It can respond properly. And all these little pieces aren't there. It's alive like yogurt. So that's why people have allergies to pasteurized milk and don't have allergies to raw milk. And that has nothing to do with lactose intolerance. It has to do with the bacteria and how the bacteria are. And we know that this is true because in Florida, I was making a speech, and this dairyman in the back row raised his hand and says, "No, wait a minute. That doesn't happen with my milk, and I pasteurize on the farm." And I said, "Bingo, tell your story." And he said, "I pasteurize my milk right after it comes out of the cow, and I sell it locally." I said, "You don't have high bacteria counts, do you?" He didn't. His bacteria counts are less than 1,000 instead of 400,000. And when you have 1,000 and you pasteurize, there's nothing dead in there. It's virtually clean milk before it gets pasteurized. So therefore, he didn't have that problem with the allergies, but he still had lactose intolerance problems with his milk. So it's very interesting to see that you can prove the science just by listening to the stories and putting it all together. Asthma and reactive airway disease. In the EU, European Union, there was a study done a couple years ago. It's called the Parsifal study. 15,000 children were studied. And the one outlier that found that their asthma and allergies and eczema was dramatically improved, and the incidence thereof was much, much lower, was the consumption of farm fresh milk. So we know that there's science behind what I'm speaking about with, as far as asthma and allergies are concerned. And we've got stories. The Tim family in Fresno went on vacation for a month and a half and were out of their raw milk, and the kids were on raw milk for their asthma, and the asthma started to come back. And when they came back, they got back in the raw milk and went away again. So it's very interesting to see how raw milk and raw fats help asthma and reactive airway, helps the muscles inside of all the bronchioles relax. And the probiotics generally do that. Osteoporosis, I think we've touched on already. The phosphatase enzyme. Actually, the name of the pasteurization test is called the negative phosphatase test. So when you take raw milk and you send it through a pasteurizer, before the pasteurizer had lots of phosphatase enzyme. Afterwards, they test to see if the phosphatase enzyme is missing, because it's an easy enzyme to test for. If it's missing, you've properly pasteurized the milk. So by definition, pasteurized milk has no phosphatase enzyme. Therefore, if you have osteoporosis, how do you absorb calcium? You can't. So phosphatase and osteoporosis and raw milk go together, just as it should, and it's always been going together for years and years. Yes, sir?
Mark, have you ever had any experience with people with spinal cord injuries who their bones start to deteriorate if they...
Lack of use.
Yeah. Lack of use, and then if they had raw milk, have you ever had anyone...
I have not, and I can't speak to that issue, but I do know that we have a lot of people with Lou Gehrig's, is that right, Blaine? Lou Gehrig's disease. Lou Gehrig's and some other stuff that are neurological issues that have reduced their incidence of pneumonia and inflammation and infection by staying probiotically on top of the infectious process and extended their lives many years beyond where they would have normally died. Because when you become debilitated and you can't move, you become subject to infection. You can't cough, you get bed sores, all those things. You need to have a probiotically robust immune system to fight that infection. And people will live many, many years. In fact, there's one right now who's drinking colostrum down in LA who should have died years ago, who's still functioning and still cognitive, and the doctors can't believe. He's still doing okay, right? He's still hanging in there? Did he pass away? He didn't pass away.
He's not functioning.
Well, he's mentally okay. He's in bad shape. But he should have died years ago.
He's not septic.
He's not septic. That's the whole thing. What generally kills people is the sepsis that comes with immobility. But as far as that is concerned, I don't know. Willing to try. You can always try. GI tract conditions, ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, celiac, all those conditions have to do with probiotic and prebiotic conditions of the food and the bacteria in your gut. In fact, Reuters and BBC, the British broadcast company, just announced 2 weeks ago that Crohn's disease is caused by the absence of certain bacteria in your gut. Wow. Pretty amazing, isn't it? Dr. Jordan Rubin, anybody know Rubin, Baker's Diet? You know, died of Crohn's disease. In fact, he was right here in San Diego back in 1996 and 97. They're going to write him off. He looked like a skeleton, bedridden. And he got on raw milk and fermented raw milk and goat's milk and all those fermented, pre-digested milk products. In fact, kefir grains, we'll send them down, we'll send lots of them to you so you can make your own kefir shakes. And he healed himself completely within a couple of years, and he was back on his feet. Now he's a robust, serious CEO of a multi-million-dollar company promoting raw dairy and all these good nutrients and stuff that comes from soil bacteria, which healed him. There are others, people that have very profound stories about Crohn's disease, and the fact that raw milk healed it. It took them a little while, but healed it. So probiotic diversity of good bacteria that reach your intestine are essential to healthy immune systems and healthy, preserving your gut. Helicobacter pylori infections, GERD, ulcers, all those things are conditions related to the tissues not functioning properly because of infection and inflammation. Raw fat, enzymes, and good bacteria are all part of that, as well as eating a whole food nutrition diet. Doctors will prescribe antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, corticosteroids. These are things that turn off warning lights. They don't do anything with underlying disease process. And that's why you see, literally, the healers are the nutritionists. They go about healing by changing the engine problem instead of the warning light on the dashboard. The last one is the kids. Let me tell you a short story about kids here, guys. In America, I was taught as a paramedic that delay delivery as long as possible because we've got to get to the hospital, we've got to sterilize everything. Okay? Well, I'll keep this PG-13. But if you think about a child, PG, what do you go, R, X? Okay. Well, I'll do it in code X, how's that? But the bottom line is, Mother Nature designed the female body and the male body so that bacteria is shared between them at conception. The child is basically in a sterile environment in the womb. At birth, guess what? It goes to the birth canal, filled with all kinds of bacteria, including the same kind of bacteria you find in your fecal samples. Okay? The baby, the unborn baby, has a sterile digestive tract. There's no bacteria there. What serves as the seeds that start the digestive tract and the immune system are those birth canal bacteria. What happens to, 25% of the people now, C-section, 25 to 30, depends on what hospital, 30%? Whatever the numbers are, 30%? They never go through the birth canal, do they? They go out through a betadine swab, sterile, directly out here to the air, never get any opportunity to get any contact with mother's good bacteria. They're whisked off to someplace else and they never get to latch on to the breast even. Okay? So where does that child get their inoculum for their first beginning of their immune system? They don't. They don't. And then they get inoculated with God knows what. And you have just a horror story unfolding in terms of how the child ends up. You got autism. I don't even want to begin to think about what the numbers are, how it all works together. But the beginning of life is unnatural for our children. And when you start life that way, and Blaine will tell you horror stories about defending the right of the mother to actually have a normal vaginal delivery. But the normal process is to be vaginally delivered. The baby has mucus all over them from the mother. The mother latches onto the breast, which is covered in the same juices from down below. And guess what? Sucks on colostrum from mother, which is not sterile. And that in process then nourishes the digestive tract, and inoculates that digestive tract with all of the ecosystem bacteria on the mother's body and in the mother's body and from the father's body because they love each other. So all those things are shared literally familially. Yeah, sex gets involved in this, guys. That's true. What's on dad's body is going to be kissed and given to mom by her mouth and other places. It's all going to be shared together. So it's important to have dad have a good, healthy immune system and good bacteria because it's all being set. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, guys. We share our bacteria together. We kiss each other and we hold hands and we make love. It all happens. So that's very, very important to understand that. Dad's immune system is just as important as mom's, all working together. So that baby, when he starts to nurse on the mother's breast and gets the inoculum from the colostrum for the first couple of days and then raw milk from the mother's breast, which is not sterile, then begins to nourish that baby's digestive tract and have the right bacteria to have a robust protection against what's going on in the ecosystem around that baby. And what do babies do? Put everything in their mouth. They are little samplers of their ecosystems. They go around grabbing everything. Kitten paws, dog food, their brother's toe. They'll suck on anything. What are they doing? They are sampling their external ecosystems so they can build immunity to it. And hopefully they're getting the right kind of food so they can digest the bacteria and they can build that very unique internal ecosystem which provides them immunity for life. So that's a very intimate story of a shocking reality of how far we are from where we should be in terms of building a natural immunity for children. What do we do now? We have a sterile birth. We then give the child early inoculations, multiple inoculations. We give them dextrose, 50% via tube down their gut, which inoculates the wrong kind of bacteria, and the weird candida starts growing early on. And then you have antibiotics early because the kid has a depressed immune system with ear infections, so you knock out everything with an antibiotic. And the kid goes back to the hospital again because they, ER constantly. And then you end up with a child who has extreme immune depression, susceptible to everything. And you have an American child. That's not what we want to do here, guys. That's why my last point down here is immune system building food great for kids. Mother's milk is raw milk, guys.